Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for coming back and seeing Gassy Jack Gear Reviews again. This is a little bit of a different review, and I always say that, but that is because I don't have a lot of watches that are similar to each other anymore. This here is the Timex Q Reissue. This is a quartz watch, and you see it right there. This is actually a really faithful reissue to the original, which was in 1979. And in 1979, quartz watches had historically been fairly expensive because it was a newer technology, and they were a real threat to the Swiss watch industry, the mechanical watches. And this was representing one of the first watches that came out that was actually an affordable quartz watch in 1979. And they've been doing Timex, if you've noticed, they've been doing a lot of reissues. I shouldn't say a lot, but they've been doing a few reissues lately. I had the Marlin reissue, which you can see that review that I have. I've sold that since, but I did want to get this one, and I was online and it was out of stock, and I heard there was another batch coming through soon. And for these reissues, they tend to do that, like they release a batch and they get gobbled up, particularly by the gray market, and then they release another batch. Well, I was looking and they didn't have any, and then I looked like 5 minutes later, and boom, they had them. So I grabbed one right away. Right now they're $299 US. Is it 299? 229. Sorry, 229 Canadian. So I don't know what I'm talking about. 229 Canadian. And that's what I paid. And I know on eBay there were the gray market buyers that were buying up, I don't know how many at a time, and then reselling them on eBay, and they were going for a lot more. Don't know if they were actually selling or not. The Marlins certainly were when they came out. People were buying and selling those all the time. But that's not what I do. I just wanted one for myself, so I got it, and I have to say, pretty happy with it. It's very retro. I think it's really cool. You can see the sort of faux patina on the indices and on the hands, and it's got a bidirectional bezel. It doesn't click; it's smooth. But this is not a diver watch. This is a diver inspired watch. Don't ask me what that actually means, because if it's a diver inspired watch, I don't know, shouldn't it have more than 50 meters water resistant? Which this does not. This has 50. Now, I can say that one of my first watches as a teenager anyway, or maybe I was around 20 when my brother got it for me. This is on a leather strap now, but the Victorinox, I forget what model that. I can't find a lot of information on that model because it was the mid 90s. Victorinox was fairly new at that point as far as watches go. But anyway, that's a 50-meter water resistant watch, and I wore it everywhere. I never took it off, shower, anything like that, and I never had an issue with it. And that was only 50-meter. So maybe I'm a little critical, but I really like all my watches to have at least 100 meters water resistance, and I actually prefer them all to have a screw-in crown, but no such luck. This is not a screw-in crown. It's 50 meters water resistance. It's got the day and date function there. Metal bracelet, and I'll show you the clasp in a bit, but it's got that battery cell sort of trap door, and you can open that with any coin, which is really cool. So you don't have to mess with these screws there. You don't have to take the case back off. You just have to take the battery cover off, and you can do that yourself. So it's not going to cost you really any much to change that battery. It's a very, very common battery. You can see in the back there, that 377 E cell. The clasp here is a very simple clasp you see often on very inexpensive watches like the Casio A158 series. They all have those. And in fact, the F91W and the A158 series of Casio watches, they will fit this bracelet. You can actually exchange them. You could put them on, and I did. I put on the A158 whatever it was on this, and I thought it looked kind of cool, but it's flimsy. It's a much more flimsy bracelet than this. This bracelet, I'm going to put this on my wrist for a second. This bracelet was driving me crazy when I first bought it, and I've heard a lot of people talk about this as well, grabbing arm hair. Man, was it ever? And the funny thing is, all of a sudden, I don't know if it was a week later or a couple days later or 2 weeks later, I forget. But all of a sudden, I stopped noticing it. And so I don't know if it just had to break in. Like even when I move it around here, that was pulling on the arm hair before a lot, and I don't notice it at all. So if you buy one of these and you notice that, and you're like, oh my God, it's grabbed my arm hair, I'm going to send it back. Just relax, wear it for a week or so, and you'll notice it goes away. And if you have one, let me know in the comments if you've experienced the same thing with the arm hair grabbing and then it kind of going away. It's a very fun watch. I don't mind quartz watches. I don't have many quartz watches, but I don't mind them in that you just grab them and you go. Let me get a close up there. You grab them and you go. You don't have to worry about it. And I love that about quartz watches, because I always have I have my watches in rotation, like usually not more than a day am I wearing a watch before I change it over to something else. So quartz is a bonus there. Let me take it back off, and I just want to kind of show you different angles of this watch, because it is a very fun watch. You can see there between the bezel and the case that it has anodized blue aluminum. Very cool. Nice little touch there, Timex. And the case itself, like it's got a lot of angles, but it's got a lot of smoothness to it too. I really, really like it. I dig this watch quite a bit. And in the same breath, I don't know whether I'm keeping it long term or not. I never do with less expensive watches. When I buy an expensive watch, what I consider an expensive watch, I tend to go, okay, yeah, this I'm keeping for life, and I'm going to be passing this down to my nephews and stuff like that. Whereas these, I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'll give it to a friend, maybe I'll keep it, maybe I'll sell it. Who knows? But for now, I really like it. Like that faux patina. That color of the bezel, you can see it's almost like purplish blue. It's not like a blue. It's definitely like a purplish blue. And some people have complained about that. They said, "Oh, the blues doesn't even match the blue of the bezel." And it's like, yeah, okay. So you can see it. I like it a lot. So would I recommend this watch? Absolutely. But like I said, I don't know if I'm going to keep it forever, but it's a very fun watch. So if you like quartz watches, if you like watches with a bit of a story and a bit of history to it, I wouldn't have bought this watch. Put it this way. I would not have bought this watch if it wasn't a reissue. And does that make a lot of sense? Because it has a history from a very long-standing company, Timex. And it was, like I said, when this watch came out, it was one of the first affordable quartz watches that hit the market, and so it has that story to it. When you talk to watch geeks, you know, and you geek out over this stuff, that comes into play, a story, you know. And to be quite honest, it's quite important to a lot of people with watches. The story of the watch or the history of the watch is kind of cool. And so there's that other cool factor there. Just going to give you one more showing before we go. And this has been a Gassy Jack gear review. If you have any questions or comments, post in the bottom. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.